And Brian, if you don't mind, before we start, I just want to say one thing. You know, we played the Orlando clip.
Yeah.
I am from Orlando. You know, it's I've always had a really hard time growing up in Orlando, and so much of the first book, Fresh Off the Boat, was about how it was very difficult to be an outsider and different in Orlando. There was a very strong, dominant culture, monoculture present in Orlando. And when we went back, we went and we saw the Mickey Ricans, the Puerto Rican people that work near Disney, and they have their restaurants on Goldenrod Road and things like that. We saw my family, and we told my dad's story. We met a Guyanese farmer who farms ducks and chickens and all sorts of vegetables. And we tried to show the diversity of Orlando. But there's still people who are very hateful. They don't want to see diversity. They don't want diversity in their cities. They don't want it in this country. And if you believe in it, if you believe in difference, you got to stand up. You got to fight for it. You got to say something.
But you can't you just say that it's not even, someone might say, oh, that's Orlando, that's backwards Florida man, and hate on Florida. But we can say the same thing here in a metropolitan like Chicago. So
everywhere.
It's not just, you know, Florida. And in that one clip, you know, from the events that happened in the last couple of days with the gun range, you know, there is a positive side to a gun range, and then there is a negative side to it. And then the people in Florida, do you think they hook onto the negative side of it, or
Well, in that scene that we shot, it was to me very negative, and I don't know if you guys have seen the episode. I ended up walking out of the episode. It was, you know, I always take responsibility. 2 producers found that story. I signed off on the story because that is something, that Sausage Castle where those guys go shoot guns. There's a lot of people in Orlando that love it, and they go. And I was like, I'll show things that I'm not necessarily a fan of. So I went, and we tried to do the scene, but as we're doing the scene, it disgusted me. And 2 people almost got shot. My brother almost got shot because one guy fell and his gun pointed up. My brother tried to help him up, and the gun hit him in the face. So that's actually in the blooper reel that they put online. They didn't put on TV.
Wow.
And then the second part is our cameraman almost got shot. Like, this guy was doing a safety demonstration, turning to try to shoot at the safety demonstration, and he accidentally fires as the cameraman's walking off screen, walking this way, and he almost shoots our camera. And he was a safety expert there. So, and the casing hit me in the head while he's doing this. So my thing was just like, look, I understand people feel like they have a right to bear arms. I understand that. If you want to keep like a 45 under the mattress, like, I know people that do that. But the assault rifle thing is one I feel like you can't justify.
Yeah.
You absolutely can't justify.
Yeah. I mean, the only, I you know, me being just a comedian, I'm just silly. And I'm like, the only reason someone would need an assault rifle is if there was like Cobra. You know what I'm saying? Like, Like, oh man, we got that Cobra problem. You know, and that's from a G.I. Joe reference. Yeah. There's a Cobra Commander problem, so you got to have something to defend yourself.
Yeah.
We don't have that.
Yeah. No, G.I. Joe's not showing up to our door. They're not showing up to the chop shop. They're not coming to Orlando.
Let's talk about, I first met you, 2 years ago. We did an Ideas Week talk.
Yeah.
That was before the TV show came out. I was just exposed to you.
Yeah.
Do you think in the last 2 years, things have gone from 0 to 60? Or 0 to 100?
Yeah.
Drizzy style.
And actually, the prologue of the book deals with that. The prologue of the book is written, I went to NBA All-Star Weekend right after Fresh Off the Boat the book came out. So I was in Houston, I was chilling, and then I ate these edibles, and I kind of like, I had a panic attack.
A body high?
On the edibles, yeah, and it's very full circle. You know, you read the prologue. You know, my homie in Houston, he had 2 AR-15s in the living room, and I was arguing with him about it the whole time. So then I start eating these edibles, and I trip out, and then I start bugging out, having a panic attack, really yelling at him about gun control. And that's actually how the book starts. So the fact that everything happened, and then we're here, I was just like, man, we have to say something tonight. Because I usually don't stump politically.
Yeah.
I write, I'm much more into, I'm really into the belief that we're a lot more similar than we are different. So I try not to buy into politics or pour more gas on that fire. But this is one of those moments where I feel like it is appropriate to be like, yo, we need this law, you know?
Yeah. So do you
But
think...
anyway, my life did change. My life changed. I was not dealing with, I guess, newfound fame very well. a lot of people who are your acquaintances, you know, people you run into, they start wanting things. Cousins definitely came out of the woodwork.
Like
you know?
you start having rapper problems.
Yeah. No, definitely.
That sounds like a
definitely.
rapper, man.
And I actually bounced out to Malibu. So I left New York. I was forced to leave New York. I would have loved to stay in New York, but to do the show, the ABC show, I had to move out to LA. So I moved out to LA, and then.
And how was that? How was that?
Oh, LA's terrible, man.
It's the worst.
LA's
It's the
terrible.
worst. You know what?
Shouts to Ray. Ray came out from LA for this event. Look at him over there. He's gonna fight for LA to the death, but
It's not the worst, but kind of. It's like sunny.
worst.
It's like sunny days is the only thing that might make it okay.
sunny days. Yo, I mean, what city you know worse?
It's bad.
This bad.
It's bad.
It's bad. You know what though? The food in LA is incredible.
Yeah.
The food scene in LA is better than the food scene in New York, to be honest.
I don't, in order for me to be at this advanced stage and keep this boy band diet, I have to really have a thing against food. But I happen to see, and I don't like.
Well, you don't eat food.
I like dance moves and optimism. That's
Yeah.
how I sustain myself.
But you like the picnic table button down. You dress like a picnic table, but you don't eat food.
Right, right. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I don't like food. But I'm not into food, but RT documentaries, man. But I saw the Jonathan Gold documentary, City of Gold, where he got to go into like
he made
LA
his
culture.
first Instagram post yesterday.
Yeah.
Big news. He posted on Instagram.
Jonathan Gold?
I got a notification. Your friend Jonathan Gold has posted on Instagram for the first time.
And do you think things like, because you talk about it, a lot of things are about food. Do you think a lot of times food can be sort of that cohesive thing that can make strangers come together, even if it could be somebody from Compton or somebody from Koreatown?
Yeah, no, definitely. Like food is definitely a Trojan horse, and that's how we use it on the show. And I tell people all the time, we boldface use food as a Trojan horse because people turn on the TV and they want food porn. They want to see something delicious. They want to know where to go to eat. And what you have to do, I think, as a storyteller, as somebody creating, as an artist or whatever it is that you are, you have to stand for something. You have to have values. You have to have a message. And so we've kind of intertwined everything with the food. So if you want to see this food and you want to learn where we get it, you're also going to immerse yourself in the history, identity, and culture of wherever it is this food came from.
Yeah.
So I try to make sure I'm selling food for the right price. Not just the dollar value, but like the values that have to come with it. Because I've seen my entire life food from ethnic communities of difference, food or restaurants or a hotel or something get plucked out. And then you put that on Main Street, but no one ever goes to that neighborhood.
So if you end up having some like ethnic foods, then it gets McDonaldized, sort of like,
Yeah. Or fusioned out, and like,
Fusioned out.
you see that. And you see that it's like down Main Street, your big strips, your big shopping areas, you always see people. And you'll see, oh, this is a Singaporean accented hamburger spot, or this is, a Filipino style spaghetti. Yeah, you get things like that, right? You got a lot of things like that, but why don't you just go to Eagle Rock and go eat Filipino food,
Right.
So that's
Filipino style spaghetti.
Yeah, but that's why I'm trying to like.
Fire.
That's why I make in the show. We will always go to the source. We go to the source. We don't do the Michelin restaurants. We don't do the chefy thing. We go to the source, and we try to get America to walk back towards like the origins of America's food history, because this food is here.
Now, I want to ask you, like, when I started seeing the show and you guys kind of like break down, not the recipe or the steps, but how you make it, would you feel comfortable or cool with someone like, you know what, I'm going to try to make, my own version of that or sort of take it off and, do my own thing with that?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely fine for people from different communities to want to cook the food. The issue becomes when somebody from another community is cooking the food. And what I've seen in food journalism is very lazy. They'll highlight the restaurant with the best interior design and the chef that speaks the best English. So if you happen to be an American chef that wants to cook Thai food, or you want to cook Mexican food, or you want to cook whatever ethnic food, but you have investors and you have a splendid dining room people can take their dates to, and you speak English, and you can give a good
You make
interview.
it comfy for me.
Make it easy. You're
Yeah.
making it easy for the journalist.
Yeah.
And then the journalist has an easy go, oh, this is the guy. This is now the voice of this entire cuisine in America.
And that's just to be real, I don't like food so much. I'm not into food critics or any of that shit. But I will say that's why I trust that Jonathan Gold guy, because he will go into
He'll
the
hit the
worst
pavement.
strip mall on Pico and find that place that's so delicious, and it was authentic.
Yeah, and he's also, he's not out to like create false gods. Do you know what I mean? Like everybody cooks food. You get 3 meals a day. You practice breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That's game day every day. So I feel like everyone has a capability to be a good cook. And I'm not into the chef worship. You know, like everybody has something to say. Moms know more than a lot of these chefs on Time Magazine doing whatever it is they're doing.
But I studied in Paris. No, I'm just kidding. So let's take it back. Let's take it back to LA, because I know people want to hear so much from you today. We're going to try to get to as much as we can. They want to hear
We gotta
about
get to
food.
the book at some
We're going to get to the book. But let's talk about real quick LA, the show Fresh Off the Boat. I'm gonna be totally honest with you. For me, I haven't said this to you yet. I love that show so much,
Yeah.
but you don't.
Yeah, no, it's
apparently.
cool.
And it's okay.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like, oh man, I really think like, oh man, that's Eddie from the show, all grown up, and I kind of
Yeah.
feel like I know your family through this show from the worst network ever in ABC. And I think they did. I talk to Ali Huang all the time. They did such, I think, a good job. It's funny as hell, and I enjoy myself.
I got her job on the show. That was my one
And
hire
honestly,
on the show.
Ali Huang, if you haven't seen her stand-up special, Jesus Christ, wow. All right, go ahead.
That was the one hire I made. But no, the thing is like, even my barbers watch the show. They like it, and they're like, yo, little Eddie's cool and it's fine. Like, it's very ironic though that it's FOB on ABC, because those are like the two biggest modifiers in the community. FOBs were always our parents' generations, and our generation was always ABC. So it's kind of ironic and strange.
Yeah.
Altogether, it was like Fresh Off the Boat and American-born Chinese, and it was always at Chinese school. You always heard those two things being said. But for me, look, if you love the show, fantastic. I have a different relationship. That's some strange version of my life. But even if it was accurate, even if it was fire, I don't think I would watch it. It's not healthy to watch your life being played out. Like I have to focus. I want to keep creating. I'm not done. A lot of people, I think they do something big like that and they hang their hat up. I got a lot more work to do. There's
So
a
this
lot
is
of
a
work.
personal-
This is a personal thing. There's a lot of
Okay,
work
good.
like in the universe for everybody to do. So I'm at peace with the show. I don't beef with it. I'm not mad. I don't watch it. I don't do the voiceover. I'm good. I've done the work. That they have the book. They got the blueprint. So
Yeah.
whatever they want to make, they go make.
So what can we say, moving into the book? So the TV show is a TV show, but clearly, could you say that this book could be the really true story of what your family really is?
Well, I think the first book was very true to. The first book is extra raw and personal, and it's a bit angry too, because it's the voice of an Asian American who's been silenced for so long. And if you're an immigrant in this country, if you're just different or weird in this country, you know how it feels to be silenced. And that was the first time someone was like, hey, we would like to hear what you have to say. And I was like for 288 pages? And yes. So it was a huge opportunity. It was like a life's dream. I got to work with Chris Jackson, who's really, I like to tell people, he taught me how to write. Like I had talent when Chris found me. But Chris was like, you have a lot of raw talent. In a lot of ways, you like the AI of my squad, And we talk about it because he has great writers. And I tell people, Chris is like the John Thompson of publishing. He got Ta-Nehisi Coates, he has Wes Moore, he has M.K. Asante, Jill McAvoy. A lot of people that are writing about race and social justice. And I tell him, I'm like, yo, I'm the AI of this squad, man. I'm the AI because like I didn't really understand how to write professionally when I came to Chris. And me and Chris have just been in the lab for 4 or 5 years now, working on this craft. And I think this is the best I can do right now. At the age of 34, this book, it went through 8 revisions. The first one went through 2.5 revisions, right? Because I was on some shit like practice, like revisions. Like I turned the book in. I remember I turned the book in and I was like, Chris, this shit is fire. And he's like,
simmer down.
Eddie is good, but like you need to do a revision. So I did the revision. Okay, I need you. He would always tell me this. I need you to stop down. You're dismissing things here. You're like running here. Like this is a real emotion. I need you to unpack this emotion and be honest.
How do you trust someone like that? Like, man, you don't know my life, or does someone just
No,
say, is it about getting it into the page?
No, we're brothers. Like me and him are brothers. Like when I hit rock bottom, like he's usually one of the first three people I call. When something really fantastic happens, he's one of the first three people I call. We have a real special relationship, and he really is like I look up to him like Yoda, you know. And so when he tells me to do something, I'll do it.
It's trust.
And yeah, but you know, writing is a beautiful thing. I don't know how many people here are writers, but writing is the one thing that has always checked me in life. Like I ran from my parents, I've run from the law, you know, I've run from a lot of things. But writing, it's like it really for me holds me responsible, holds me accountable. When I write something, I look at it and I can tell if I'm being honest or if I'm not. And so Chris is very good at being like, Eddie, this is a tough emotion to deal with. You're running from me here. I need you to stop. I need you to sit down. I need you to tell me exactly how you feel, like honestly.
Yeah.
But I think to be a good writer, you have to be more and more honest with yourself and be aware. This is as honest I can be right now. But I think it's something you continue to work at as you grow.
So one thing I want to touch back on, you said, you know, the first book was angry about being Asian, being, you know, overlooked and not heard. Do you feel like now that you have sort of like, I guess, a shot as, oh man, you're like most popular Asian guy that, you know, that I, you know, like, you know, I could take you to Bronzeville in the South Side and kind of like throw it, oh yeah, I seen your show, I kind of know what you're about, if they can connect. Do you think there could be like, you know, the Korean story, the Filipino story? Do you think America has the attention span or the media has the attention span to take on more stories like this?
Yeah, I don't think that my story popped because I'm Asian. I don't think, you know, that is the reason. I think, you know, we as humans, I think, have attention spans for things that are honest. You know, when things have truth and they're honest, you want to hear that. And you want to stop and you want to listen and you kind of want to give a piece of your heart to that. So, you know, like when I'm in Brooklyn, people jump out of cars and they're not Asian, you know? People jump out and they're like, yo, I watched a Jamaica episode. I'm from Jamaica. You represented. I walk by the Seventh-day Adventist church. Everybody's watching Huang's World. They're happy, you know, and like it feels really good that I am using my job, my platform, and my voice to help other people like tell their stories. Because I try to not go to a country and impose my views. I try to listen and then help amplify what other people want to say.
Because, you know, not to go back to the show, but to go back to what you're about, is it doesn't come off as an Asian story. It has sort of Asian trappings, but Eddie, the little boy, is just sort of like me, but a chunky Asian version of what I was like. Yeah. In the 90s, you know, if you grew up in the 90s or you're in junior high, like, oh, I relate to that because that's what was popping, and that was just, I can interchange myself from there.
Yeah, I think also race is very binary in America, especially growing up in the 80s and 90s. It was white or it was black, you know, and, you know, there's a lot of things that you're trying to understand about yourself. You're trying to understand why there are these stereotypes, there's these racial slurs, there's these things that you cannot understand, why you feel alien. And black culture was the way that I started to understand being different in America, because the black community was, at the time I was growing up, the most accessible and the people that were talking with the most force. And I think honesty and sincerity about what it was like to be held down and different in America. And you know, the black community, black culture laid the groundwork for everybody else that's different in this country, at least in my experience, you know?
No, that makes sense.
And I just saw a lot of truth, and I related a lot to it. And it wasn't like some, oh, I like these sneakers, or I like basketball, or I like this music. It wasn't like the Italians and Do the Right Thing. Like, oh, I like Michael Jackson, and I like Magic Johnson, but like they're not black dudes like you. Do you know what I mean? Like, It was really me trying to understand my existence by relating to this history that was going on before my eyes. And one of my favorite books, I don't know if y'all ever read this book, it's called Everything But the Burden. And there's an essay in there about appropriation and co-optation, and it's called Eminem, the New White Negro, and that's one of the most impressive, influential essays I've ever read on the topic of black culture and its influence on America.
Yeah. So how about this? How about we get a little bit of the book?
Yeah.
Right now?
I forgot to do the reading, but I mean let's
did
do
you-
Q&A. You want to
Oh,
do
yeah,
some
let's do the
Q&A? Let's do
Q&A,
Q&A.
yeah.
I got a little excited. I forgot to read from the book, but let's do Q&A. You guys got, because that's the best part. Yeah, come up to the mic. Yeah, you guys ask anything, for real. We'll stay, we'll answer all your questions.
Good evening. Welcome
How
to
are you?
Chicago. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for the contribution for food and beverage industry, microcultures, exposure, and so on. My question is, you graduated law school. I'm not quite sure if it was involved a student loan. You walk out after 6 months. What was the family perception about that? Thanks a
Yeah,
lot.
no, thank you very much. My mom and dad were super disappointed in me. They cursed at me. They told me I was a loser. My mom even about, I'd say 8 months ago now, was like, Eddie, you're doing really well. You should sell Baohaus and you should open a law firm. Now is the time.
But
So
you know what?
She still wants me to be a lawyer.
You know what? Or can we say she's trying to keep it Wu-Tang Financial, diversifying your
yeah.
portfolio? You know?
She wants me to invest in bonds.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. My mom, she just has an idea of what is success in America, and success in America to her is lawyer, doctor, engineer, maybe accountant. Like we'll accept accountant, but no. I think that this generation is doing a lot of things to help our parents understand there's other ways to kind of be successful and find happiness in this country.
Because it's not what it was in the set. You don't work at a company all your life and then get a watch and then get a pension. You got to keep grinding as if you were a rapper.
Yeah, also I think that, our parents, their generation, it was like Maslow's pyramid of needs, right? They just need to survive.
Yeah.
I need a roof, I need food, I need water, and I need money to send these kids to school, right? We have the luxury because our parents laid that groundwork. We get to go up the ladder. And the thing I hope for America and like civilization in general is that once we start to move up, we start to bring other people with us. Like this income inequality thing that's been in the news for the last 2 years is extremely important. And I know I sound like a crazy person when I say this, but there are robots that can do jobs in the future. And if we have robots, like I'm really for a baseline income for people. Like I really think that if we can provide baseline income for people, so we are guaranteeing healthcare, food, shelter, clothes for people with a baseline minimum income, then everyone can start to create and everyone can start to participate in the like higher levels of this pyramid.
Yeah. That makes sense. That's sort of like in a way, it was like, back in, when everyone, technically the good old days is when, America had the space program because everybody was working towards that. It was people, if you didn't build rockets, you were having a diner for people who built the rockets. It was sort of a collective thing. We have more questions.
Yeah, questions.
And if you do have questions, because our time is short, let's start a line right over here. And we can just run them right up. Thank you.
Hey, I'm Joshua. Quick question. Well, not really a quick question. So I've seen every episode of Huang's World, and I actually brought my girlfriend along. She's got her into it.
Slug wifey.
So we just watched the Taiwan episode, and out of all the episodes, it seemed like you were the happiest. Not only were you there with your parents, but obviously your parents being from there. And there's one scene that really just kind of spoke to me is when you were sitting down with the grandmother eating the food, and she's like, "You're a good boy, you're a good boy." So could you kind of explain just the feelings of being back, not only in Taiwan, but being back there with your parents, and just like the feelings? And I don't know if your brothers had joined as well, but
Yeah, I mean, I've loved every country I've gone to, but certain countries have been more difficult trips than others. For instance, going to Juarez is tough. Juarez is very rugged. We went to Sicily. I got thrown in jail because I got in an argument with white supremacists. So like that's slightly less enjoyable than eating with like a grandmother on a mountain. And we went to Turkey and I got tear gassed because we were in a gay pride parade. So these things they're not. It's you try to have fun everywhere you go, but somehow trouble seems to find me. Taiwan is a very special place to me. It was it's where my parents were born. It's beautiful to go back, and every time I go, I learn something new about myself and like humanity in general, and it unlocks a lot of the questions I've had and the ideas about difference that I've had. So yeah, you can't help but like love Taiwan. I think the most fun I had was actually Jamaica. I love the Jamaica episode because I grew up with mad Jamaicans. To sort of go to Jamaica for the first time and experience the culture, that was super fly.
And eating a lot of jerk, obviously.
Yeah. I love the jerk, and I love the breadfruit. I love the cocoa bread. I like the bacalao. The aki saltfish. So I like it all. Yeah, but
Thanks,
no,
Eddie.
I'm glad you like Taiwan. Hello.
Hello, lady. You talk a lot of shit about Mongolian food, and I'm Mongolian. And I felt the same way. I felt the same way my entire life.
Yeah.
So,
Well, because I was talking to chefs in Mongolia, and this dude was like, we didn't get spices till the 90s.
yeah.
How are they
And I was
how are
like,
they
you were
seasoning
just
food?
boiling sheep's head in water with salt. And he's like,
So anyways, is there any way for our culture to integrate to American culture and start our own business over here for Mongolian food and let other people experience what I grew up eating?
I will say this, like, don't, I would say,
It's sort of like McDonald's it,
yeah, I try not to have like hard and fast rules and be like didactic with cats, but the thing is I wouldn't think about integrating into America, right? Like, I really think
But
it's
that's where
special.
the money is, man.
But introduce Mongolian food to the American culture
I know
in a
what you
way
mean.
like just like
I know what you mean.
McDonald's
I
and
know what you mean.
Chipotle and yeah.
Yeah, there is, Jonathan Franzen has this fire article I read recently, and he was like, there are writers who are contract writers, and there are writers who are status writers. And there's writers who it's like all about the art, and it's all about integrity, and you want the reader or the audience or the customer eating your food to just catch up, right? And in a lot of ways, I felt like Wu-Tang was a status rapper, like group. Do you know what I mean? Because super cryptic, no one understood it, but it was the illest thing at that time. And so people were like, I'm going to catch up. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to try to figure out what RZA means when he says protons, electrons always cause explosion, So cats figured it out. But for the most part, like what you're asking me about is being a contract cook or a contract writer, meaning you make a deal with your consumer and you think about what the consumer wants and how much you're willing to give them of, in a lot of ways, your identity and your soul. So you can't ask me for the formula. The one thing I did say when I opened Baohaus, because I wanted to sell red cooked pork on rice, and I was like, I'm going to sell the authentic red cooked pork on rice. But I started serving it, and people are like, they loved it. The Americans that were my friends that were coming to my crib eating it were like, I would really like this on bread, though. Like that guy, that guy David Chang, he like puts them on bread, and we really like when he does that. And I got super mad. I was like, that's not an authentic Taiwanese bao. Do you know what I mean? And I was like, you know what? I don't like to compromise, but this is a dish that exists in Taiwan. It hits a matrix. I can make this dish completely in its original form with my flavor and my identity without compromising, and Americans will like this, fantastic. And because I always said, if Obama put the healthcare plan on cheddar biscuits, like that shit would have passed.
It would have passed. But can I
Put it
ask
on
you-
bread.
right,
But
thank
no,
you.
I would say that's my joke is put it on bread. You got to figure out what it is. Maybe it's hot pot, right? Hot pot is incredible. Mongolian hot pot is incredible.
Yeah.
And that's something people understand. Shabu shabu, hot pot. Just find there's always a food item. There's always a story. There's always something cultural in all of our cultures and identities that satisfies multiple different people. So find what that is that you can be true to your Mongolian identity, and it's something Americans will appreciate in that vein. That's what I would say.
Thank you very much, Eddie.
Yeah, no, good luck.
So let me answer your question. And this is I love to put my ignorance on display. Even if honestly, Eddie Huang, I say your name now, but every time I walk past your billboard on Sunset, I'm like, what? But it has an H in it. I just can't figure things out. So Mongolian beef, is that fake? I mean, that's phony.
No, oh, like the Mongolian barbecue?
Like no, if you go to Mongolian beef at a Chinese restaurant, it's all spicy.
Oh, Mongolian beef. Yeah.
That's funny,
That's
huh?
like, yeah, no, that's like some flavors that people from China may have experienced or heard of from Mongolia and just sauteed in the wok. Like, because that is the most compromised food. Like red sauce Italian,
Yeah.
bulletproof Chinese food, Tex-Mex. These are the most compromised foods. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is the lowest common denominator versions of our culture. But you know what? It was ingenious. It allowed people to survive. It fed a lot of families, and they are their own thing now. So
Yeah.
I don't bash it. Like, I love Tex-Mex. I love bulletproof Chinese. I love red sauce Italian. Like, those are American foods. And I think that when people go back to study these things and think about them, you could show your kids, look, this is kind of what we had to do for people to understand us. But you have the opportunity now to like serve us Mongolian hot pot or serve us Taiwanese street food, exactly in its own vein. But like, people paid the cost so we could be the boss. You know what I mean?
That makes
So-
sense.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Hi,
And
Eddie.
they all went to the same place to buy your shirts.
He got the memo.
It's a Chicago thing, huh?
Exactly. So, Eddie,
I thought y'all were up on Ralph, no?
Yeah.
I thought there was Ralph Ruler territory.
Oh yeah, it's
together.
it's preppy nerdy chic.
Okay.
all
My
right.
bad. Question.
So one question I have for you is I'm Taiwanese American, so my parents are from Taiwan, and I don't know if you experience this in New York, but here in Chicago, one of the things I experience is when I tell people I'm from Taiwan, if it was 5 years ago, they would be like, "Oh, that's awesome, I've been to Bangkok," or you know, I would say, "Oh yeah, I'm Taiwanese." They're like, "Oh yeah, that's China, right?" You know, and so that's like very confusing to I think people, you know, not just in the Midwest, but definitely in the Midwest. So one you know, if you're from LA or SF, maybe they would get it. So one thing I was curious about is I think that the genius of what you do, part of it, just a small part of it, is that you take sort of complicated concepts, you take complex history, you take things that maybe people feel and understand, but you sort of translate it in a way that people who aren't from that experience can understand it. So I was just curious if you can offer any advice on people who are Taiwanese. How do we actually get people to understand what the hell that is? Because it's very confusing to a lot of people. And then I'm going to try to cheat. I'm going to go like 2 for 1 here.
Very Taiwanese.
I'm going to try to do that, yeah? Get my value in, you know? At the buffet, you know, there's fixed price entry, get as much as you can. My second follow-up, if you're open to it, would be what the hell is going on with Trump? But the first question, I don't want
I'll tell you. I'll
take
take the second one really quickly because I don't talk about Trump. He's not worth the time. I think the most important thing is you have to see through this man. Like I don't think he even believes what he's saying. He is a pragmatist. He is a through and through politician. He's preying on people's ignorance and insecurity and fear. And I don't think he's dumb enough to believe what he's saying, but we're dumb enough to talk about it. And I think like what we need to do as Americans in general is not to play into this divisiveness. Stop attacking Trump because it just makes him bigger. Do you know what I mean? It's just feeding this monster. I think what we have to do is talk through him to the constituency, especially some of these working class white people that feel left out of the Democratic Party, that feel left out of what's going on, and also just talk to people. Why are you mad? You know, like when I see a crazy person, why are you mad? and I like to smile. I like to ask why you're mad, and I want to understand because to be honest, there's usually a reason. There's usually a reason. They may not be able to express it. They may not be like their actions may not be logical, but at least the feeling usually comes from a place of truth, right?
Yeah.
Not everyone has the ability to act logically. I don't always act logically, but like the feeling is there. And like as a therapist would say, like those cats got a lot of feeling, right? You got to explore that feeling. So that's the first one, is to kind of look past Trump and talk to the constituency that's rallied around him. The other one, the Taiwanese thing, is in a lot of ways don't play into the confusion, you know? Like, don't get flustered if somebody says you're from Bangkok. It happened to me literally last week. Like, it was like an event organizer. It was like, oh my God, I love like pad thai, like love Taiwanese food. And I was like,
Exactly.
it's fantastic. That's great. I like pad thai too. That's good. And I didn't correct him. I just kept it moving because it kind of bothered me, you know. But the thing I would say is don't buy into the confusion. And also, it's not as complicated as people want to make it out to be. Like I don't know if you saw the Taiwan episode, but what we tried to explain is, look, this is a disputed territory. It used to be part of China. Well, originally, nothing was part of anything. So originally, it's just land, right? It's just an island off the coast of what is today China, right? And there was Aboriginal people. Then Fukienese migrated, Hakka people migrated. Then the Japanese occupied it, right? Then the nationalists came back. And yes, it's changed hands many times. But at the end of the day, it's very simple. This is a landmass. It is a Southeast Asian island off the coast of China that has its own culture, that has its own identity, and has its own set of like very complicated politics. But the politics is not who you are, right?
No.
So when people ask you who you are, you don't have to talk about one China. You don't have to talk about the politics. You are who you are.
Huh?
Yeah.
But let me ask you a question.
Thank you.
As probably the person he's talking to, who probably just thinks, oh, Asian guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, so he's probably talking to someone who's like, oh, he's I can tell something. But what outside of the landmass, outside of the food, how is it over a friendship? Do I get like, oh, I can know the ins and outs between him and a Filipino guy?
See, this is the thing. That is a fallacy because I really think people are more similar than they are different. We have different cultures. We have different ways of life. But at the core is, like, genetically, you do the 23andMe test, man. Like, mine is just like an East Asian heat map. You know, there's like a lot of cats from all over kind of mixed it up. And I think when we start to think, oh, what is it that makes a Filipino different than a Korean or a Chinese or you know, a North African person versus a South African person? You know, it's just like, yo, we're humans at the end of the day. And like right now with the way the internet is and we're interconnected, there is a common global culture. I'm not a fan of the common global culture because I think it's wiping out local regional culture. But the thing I like about common culture is it shows you how similar we are.
Yeah.
You know.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, how's it going?
Nice.
Also very Taiwanese with the sandals.
Why won't you make a restaurant in Chicago?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a good question.
Wow.
I like this guy.
That was to the point.
I like him. You know what? I actually, because I do like Chicago a lot. It's one of my favorite cities in America. I always say New York. I like New York a lot. I like Philly and I like Chicago. Those are my American cities. I really like the people in those cities. I like Philadelphia soul. Do you like Philadelphia soul?
I don't know.
All right. If I open up in Chicago, you gonna listen to Billy Paul?
I don't know.
Okay. No, but you know, it's just I haven't had that much time. We're gonna do LA this year, but Chicago is on the list. There's a few cities that I would do it in. Chicago's on the list. You live in a good city. Yeah.
Thank you.
You got
man.
another question?
No.
No? All right. Don't sleep on that Philadelphia soul.
So I guess this makes 3 Taiwanese in a row. So Kaohsiung. So I was thinking about this in the context of, you know, you talk about food and talk about appropriation, and one of the things that, you know, so my mom has no idea who you are. I just have to like preface like, oh, well, he's a lawyer, but he's into food. But I was talking about how she asked me the same thing, why aren't you in grad school? But I was talking to her about Panda Express, because one of the things that my mom does now that, you know, I'm out working, I don't live at home, is that she gets really lazy. And she goes, you know, hey, we got lazy. I bought buffalo wings, I bought Panda Express. And I used to get really mad because I'm like, Mom, like, you cook Chinese food, you don't need to do this. But, well, But she brought up a really interesting point, which was that she was like, well, when I immigrated to the United States, I moved out to the suburbs. And in the city, where you can go to Chinatown and you can get good Chinese food. I don't know if you can find good Taiwanese food, though. But if you can get good Chinese food in the cities. But when you go out into the suburbs, and you go out to areas that aren't as dense in terms of the Chinese population and not, as many restaurants, the Chinese food that you get there is the Panda Express variety. And so, I think it's really easy to reach out and look in the culture and say, okay, in the city, this is how we promote our food, this is how we promote our culture. But a lot of people in the United States still live, in the suburbs. They live in areas where Chinese people are not as accessible. And when they watch your show, I haven't watched the show either, but like when they watch your show, that's the front that, I read the book, man. I read the book. I appreciate the book. But when they watch the show and they go to the only Chinese, food place there, are you concerned that it's kind of just keeping the same, generalizations of our culture, Asian culture, and how do you reach the suburbs, and how do you reach to the non-urban areas where the, Chinese people are, living?
I'm not concerned. I don't know if concerned is the word, because like progress takes time. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't know why you would be concerned. It just takes time. There's people all over the world from different cultures, different ethnicities, like right now popping up, leaving a lot of their jobs and opening restaurants or opening stores, promoting their culture, promoting their identity. And I think it's a really beautiful thing. I think that it's happening everywhere. Every city I go to, every suburb I go to, there is like that one ethnic restaurant. Even like outside of Nashville, I went to an incredible Thai spot. They got a really good Vietnamese spot. Cats are popping up everywhere, so I'm not concerned at all. It's just going to take time.
Let me ask you this: Do you think it's your responsibility because you're Eddie Huang, man? I mean, I see you on TV, man.
No, because it's like it's going to go so much slower if I got to do everything. Like just people in general. Like everyone has to take responsibility for kind of. I feel like this way. There's a chapter in the book where I meet this massage therapist who works at Noah's Ark. It's like a water park thing in Chengdu, China. Really, really interesting business model. The water park, casino, massage therapy, theme park. But I end up getting like a massage, and I'm talking to her, and she tells me how much money she makes. It was less than like $1,000 a month. She worked 27 to 28 days, depending on the month, if the month had 30 days or 31 days. And she lived at the complex. Her family lived in rural China. Her and her sister both lived on this complex and never left. They just mailed the money home so their parents can try to buy their house. And it was super sad. And she kept telling me, you're a very special Chinese person. You're a very special Chinese person. And I didn't understand what she was saying at first, but when you get to the end of the chapter and then a conversation, I realized what she meant. I'm special simply, I've been able to be special simply because I was born in America. It is a privilege to be born in this country. It shouldn't be a privilege. This should be something that everybody can do. We should have global mobility, and people should be allowed to go to, the best land masses near the best natural resources for opportunities to have the same opportunity for the same pay for the same job. That's what we should all have. But we don't. And she kept telling me, you're very special. And all of us in this room, living in America, you're special. You're lucky. You have an opportunity, and you have a duty. But I think a lot of times in this country, we look at our leaders, oh, why can't you do this? Barack, why can't you do everything? He needed help. No one helped him for the first 4 years. He did everything by himself, and it was really difficult. But I think that everyone in America needs to, really strap their Timbs up and say to themselves, I got to do something. I have my part. I have my duty in this country because I'm lucky. I took somebody's spot here.
Yeah. That sounds like Ronald Reagan talk, but he should say.
Ronald Reagan?
Yeah, so bootstraps.
I didn't know that was some Reagan shit.
But let me ask,
good artists borrow, great artists steal,
Quick question. If you did, if you did what he wants you to do you think if you got to the suburbs and opened an Eddie Huang restaurant, it would kind of get to a Panda Express place? Just because of capitalism? Just
No.
because of trying to keep costs low and trying to keep those
No.
many stores open?
I got offered a lot of time. I mean, I got one store. I go open a lot of stores. I got one, you know,
Right.
and it's super ratchet and it's under 500 square feet, you know, and we've made the impact we have. And you know what? Like you should open your restaurant. You should do what you need to do. You know, if you're concerned, don't be concerned. Do something. Yeah.
Word, thanks, man.
What's
What
up,
up?
Eddie? This is kind of like a personal question because I'm a student independent filmmaker, and I was told by Steve that you were going to come here, and I was wondering if I'm making a documentary on Asian Americans or just like first generation Americans in general, and I was wondering in their struggle to find identity in America, and I was wondering if I could like, you know, get an interview sometime.
This is a weird spot to ask. You talk to Ray at the end, man. This is more for questions so that everybody can benefit from this.
All right.
Thank you.
Hey man, I just want to say thanks for going to Sicily. My family came from there 60 years ago, and I feel like Sicily gets overlooked by a lot of people. Like when they think of it, like you said, red sauce is a very American thing. On that show, I didn't see you eat a plate of red sauce, really, man.
No.
And also, it made me sad because I haven't been there in 10 years. So I have two questions for you. Is there stuff that happens on the show with like that doesn't make the cut for the show that you wish would have, or like the cameras are off? Because there's parts where you were in Sicily where I'm like, oh, I fucking know that street. Like I've been there. I've been in that restaurant, and also my family owns they own pizza places. Like that's what they came here. They came here with nothing, started their own pizza places, and over time, it's been Americanized, you know, red sauce. Is there something that's happened in your restaurant, or like, what's a bad thing that people don't know about owning your own restaurant?
Okay, I'm gonna take the first question first because I'm gonna forget. The other one's complicated. Your first question was if there's footage that doesn't make it in the show.
Yeah.
You know, I am proud to say that every single shot that I've ever wanted to be in the show and fought for has made it into the show. One that the network tried to cut, and look, Viceland is the most humane network I've ever worked with. They're the best. And so in Jamaica, there's a goat slaughter scene. A goat gets killed, but for good reason. We explain, we're showing you, this is not to be sensational, this is to show you, this is what happens when you eat meat. Every time you eat meat, you have to be aware that this is what's going on. You're not doing it, but you're paying somebody else to do it. And my bosses at Vice understood it, so we went to A&E and we fought for it. And at first, the lawyers were like, this absolutely has to go. S&P, who does the regulations, standards, and practices, was like, you cannot kill this animal on screen. PETA's going to kill us. And I was like, no. You think PETA's going to be mad because an animal was killed. And in your experience, when there's animals being tortured or killed, PETA gets mad. But PETA is not this like blind, angry organization as much as people try to paint them that way. I was like, I have faith. I think that if PETA or other people for animal rights see this in the context, they're going to totally understand why this goat was killed on camera. And I was able to argue for it. Vice supported me, and that shot made it into the show. And we've had arguments like that on every single episode. So every shot that I've ever felt was important, whether the camera was like on shooting or just on in the van, it's made it into the show. We haven't had to leave anything out, luckily. You know, I've been on other shows where really good stuff gets left out, but this one, no. And even in our Moscow episodes, when we were online, we have those dudes on the hot mic saying racial slurs while they think they're not being filmed, and we put that in, you know. The second question was about bad things happening in
I can kind of
restaurants?
shorten it. So I'm taking over the family pizza place, and I grew up in it. Like, since I was 8, my parents made me work like long hours. So, but now that I'm older, my parents are like, you need to step your shit up. So I'm taking it over. I'm like, there's so much bullshit that you just have to fucking deal with. And the worst for me personally is just the customers. like people say the customer's always right, but that's like 90% of the time they're right. I mean, they're not right. They're right 10% of the time. But for you, what was the hardest part of owning a restaurant?
Dealing with customers is tough, man. I'll give you a good example. Like, by code, when we had the original Baohaus, we did not have an ADA bathroom. We had a bathroom for employees that was in the kitchen, right? and you were not allowed, the city does not allow people to come behind the counter and use the kitchen bathroom. We can't do it. And we were super busy, and the floor was a little bit wet. Like the cooks were cleaning it up and the floor was wet, and this pregnant woman asked to use the bathroom. And I said, ma'am, like it's a little slippery, and honestly, the code, you're not allowed to use it. She goes, I'm pregnant. And she was really flexing on me because she was pregnant. And I was like, listen, Schiller's next door is gonna let you use their bathroom. It's a much nicer bathroom. It's almost like the bathroom from Ally McBeal. Like, it's fantastic. They have this co-ed bathroom that's very known in New York, and I always called it the Ally McBeal bathroom because that show had a co-ed bathroom. But she got mad, and she threw hot green tea on me. And then she left a Yelp review and was like, I went to Baohaus, the food was great, but the service was terrible. They wouldn't let a pregnant woman use the bathroom. And then I replied, I was like, and then that pregnant woman threw hot green tea on me. So...
Wait a minute, she's put like a breakup? Like,
yeah.
How dare you?
Yeah, it was like
Wow.
Connie Corleone shit, She really went there. And I was like, okay, well, I've seen my mom do this to my dad. I'm just gonna Yelp this.
You was living that life.
Yeah, but no, that it happens. And the thing is, like, it's not the customer's always right or the owner's always right. It's not like you're not a pushover and you can't be soup Nazi. You just be fair in between.
Yeah.
And I think what I've noticed is, don't assume things about people. I would always assume too, like, this person's not gonna understand. I'm not gonna say anything. I'll just smile and try to get through it. But you rarely get through it, because people can tell when you're patronizing them. People can tell when you're immigrant smiling them. Do you know what I mean? Ha, 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 ha. Like, I used to do that too, but people can tell and they get mad and they feel dismissed. So just address it.
That's why my mom won't let me and my dad talk to customers. So she's at the front, my dad and I are in the back cooking. So it's actually like a family thing. It's
You'll
three
figure
of us.
it out, man. Just,
Yeah.
try to understand it from their perspective and then explain yours. It's all you can do.
Thanks, man.
Good luck, man.
So time-wise, how many more questions do we have?
You good.
We got time for about, I think we can get through these ideally in the
We got five people? All right, that's all she wrote. We take all
Boom.
5. All right.
I can't believe I'm talking to you.
Hi.
Hi. I think one of the things that spoke to me the most in your books is, being Asian and American, like just finding your identity and struggling with that. So I guess my question is, now that you're a little older and you're more established in your career and what you're doing, is it something that you still feel like, like you're comfortable with, or you figured it out, or is it something that you're still constantly struggling with?
You're comfortable. I'm comfortable, but I worked very hard at it, and I get to do events and I talk about it every night. And when you constantly get to work on it and meet other people, it helps a lot. Mm-hmm. But you can't help it when somebody comes into your life and just randomly throws you off and puts you back, right? I was doing a big show on TV recently, and I had a few friends of mine in the green room backstage on the talk show, and there was 3 black guys with me and 2 Asian guys, and everybody that came by to my Asian friends were like, Eddie, welcome, thank you so much for doing the show. And they did it to both of them. And my black friends were with me, and they were like, yo, I remember going through this in the 90s or 2000s when people confused us, but they're like, I feel like people can differentiate us now because they've seen more of us, but they can't tell any of y'all apart. And we actually went to dinner and we were all talking about it, because, my friends, they were like, yeah, I remember when they called Bobby Drew and Drew Bobby and Mark Bobby or Drew, and they're like, but now it's just like my friend Bernard and Bobby, everybody calls him Eddie when we go to events together. So that always puts you back. In my mind, I feel like I've progressed a lot. In my mind, I felt like I've become more comfortable in my skin. But people will push you back, and you got to get back up there. Get back up and keep going. And people will say things that are very hurtful. Things happen, like you see on the news, things happen, and they really affect you. And it's hard. But I think when tragedy strikes and things set you back, it's a learning experience to come back stronger, and that's what's really important.
Thank you.
Yeah.
How you doing? Thank you for
What's
sharing your
up?
time with. So, being a Chicago native, my father being a Polish immigrant, and my mother being from the island of Puerto Rico, I always see you wearing Puerto Rican garments and always representing the flag. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
If you know anything about the Puerto Rican economy,
Yeah.
it's not doing so
Yeah,
hot.
no, it's not.
Do you plan on doing a Chicago show, kind of spotlighting the Puerto Rican community, or do you plan on doing a show spotlighting
Well, actually,
Puerto Rico?
Puerto Rico is the one we're going to next. So we're gonna go to Puerto Rico because I grew up with a lot of Puerto Ricans and Dominicans, and they love the beef. But my best friend, my manager, my attorney, he's been with me since day one. He's usually on the road with me too. Rafael Martinez, he's Puerto Rican, and he's like one of the main reasons. And Ray, because me and Ray went to Puerto Rico together with Kendrick, and on one of the shows, and we were shopping. Where were we shopping, Ray? Old San Juan, and that's when I copped all the Puerto Rico gear. So I've been rocking it all from that one trip. But I love Puerto Rican culture, and it's always every good friend I've met, I'll rep their country, I'll rep their city. Do you know what I mean? Because like they're part of who I am. They've given me a lot, and in a lot of ways, like I've absorbed their knowledge, and so I rep for them. So I do it for my boy Raph. I do it for all my other homies. But Puerto Rico is going through a real crisis right now, and whether it's Greece, whether it's Jamaica, whether it's Puerto Rico, all these countries under the thumb of the IMF, it really makes me upset. And so Puerto Rico's number one on the list this year.
Absolutely. Sorry to sneak in another question. Do you plan on doing a Chicago kind of representing the Midwestern?
I only get to do 80 a year, man.
All right. Absolutely. Take care. Thank you very much.
Thank you. What's up?
Hey, what's going
nice
on,
hat.
man?
I like it.
Thank you. Got a rep.
I got the socks.
Oh, fresh as hell.
We hand rocked out.
Nice, nice. Hey, well, huge fan. My girl's here. We're both huge fans. But I told her like I would kick myself in the face if I didn't ask this. I see you in like certain episodes repping the Dipset and whatnot, and I just want to know like, cause in Huang's world, Cameron does the intro, right? Yeah. How did that happen, bro?
Yo, I'm the world's #1 Killer Cam fan.
Yeah.
All day.
Come on, boy.
Yeah. Every book has a Cam quote. Like this one was telescopes, binoculars, the feds hate my vernacular, because we got a lot of heat the first book for speaking in slang, speaking in code. But the thing is, young people of my generation, they loved it. And if you read the reviews or whatever, kids were like, I've never seen a book written in this language. I've never read a book with these references. And when you read literary books, the references are always of another generation, or it's almost like segregated thought. Like if I want to read high-level literary thought, then I have to know all these things you're talking about. But I'm trying to have that same analysis, but use the voice that I use with my friends and the references that we've learned from. Because I learn more from music, Yeah. And but so that's what that quote's about. I love Cam because I think he's the funniest rapper. And I remember theater people would say, and I think my teachers would talk about Shakespeare, and there was the old saying, tragedy is easy, comedy is hard. So like Woody Allen's my favorite director, and Cam's my favorite rapper, and I really like wit and I really like comedy. It came about, I met Cam at Fool's Gold. There was a Fool's Gold day off party. It was a big block party in New York, and I met Cam there. And then I've been friends with Shice Bubs from all the Purple Haze tapes, the Purple City Bird Gang. And so I was friends with Shice. And Shice actually is the one that went with me on the restaurant review of Marcus Samuelson's Red Rooster. So when I did the Marcus Samuelson Red Rooster review, it was Shice was the Harlem dude that was with me. And so I always chill with Dipset. I was always Dipset fam. And then one of my APs used to be Killer's man when he was doing his whole run in Ohio.
Oh, damn.
So he drove out, and now he works on the show. So we linked it all together. But it's been like, it's all fam. It's all fam. We did the Scion commercial together, and then it's a funny story. Benny Blanco, you ever heard of Benny Blanco?
Yeah.
So Benny Blanco did the original beat for the song, and he used a Dictators sample, like the old punk rock band, the Dictators. So he used the sample. It was super expensive, and Benny's expensive because he does like Katy Perry and shit now. But Benny was cool. He's like, it's on the arm. This is fam, like whatever. Replay it. So we then had the Heat Makers basically remake Benny's beat without the sample, and then Cam got on it. So that's how we afforded it and everything.
Dope.
But it was all fam. It's all just dudes that hang out.
interconnected.
That's how songs happen. Danny Brown's the same way. I watched this movie, The Yakuza Papers. I sent the theme song for The Yakuza Papers to Bruiser Skywalker. Then he flipped the beat and Danny got on it, and that's the ABC theme song. But that's literally just kids watching movies being like, yo, you gotta get on this. You know? That's how it happened.
And that's what an executive producer does. You just got to make it happen.
Yeah, you make it happen. Like I listened to this crazy Yakuza song from this movie I got at the video store, and Danny's on it. And now that's the theme song of Fresh Off the Boat.
Dope.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you so much.
Thank you, man. Hello.
Hey, Eddie. So I've been watching Huang's World for a while, and what really strikes me about your show is that I feel like you're always aiming at trying to get more empathy in the world, and that's something that I really appreciate and hope for my own life. So I'm a writer, and I guess I'm wondering what your advice is, especially right now when we're facing a lot of tragedy and a lot of divisiveness. How do we create a culture that is more unified and where empathy is a norm? And what can a writer especially do to bring about that culture?
Yeah, I have thought about this for a long time, actually, and one of the things I try to live by is if you feel for other people first, it'll help you to feel for yourself. Sometimes, like, you can get into a real dark place, and it's hard to get out of there by yourself. But when you see other people that have issues too, and you put them first, and you start to, like, give whatever energy you have left for them, sometimes it heals you along the way. You know, like, I think helping and trying to understand other people or feeling for them, it's helped me a lot. Like, I had a breakdown at an event. I had a little bit of a panic attack a couple weeks ago, and a friend of mine, you know, he could tell it was happening, and then, you know, he told me something about him that, like, he has panic attacks and why he does, and immediately my mind switched to him because I was concerned for him, and then I wasn't worried about myself, and I felt great. And I don't know what I would have done. I don't know how bad it would have been if he hadn't shared that with me. But when you can feel for other people, you can learn then how to feel for yourself. Because sometimes the things we dislike the most is ourselves, right? And you want other people to love you, but you can't. Other people can't love you till you love yourself. And sometimes the best way to learn how to love yourself is to love someone else first. It's complicated. But that's what I've learned with my emotions.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good luck. Okay.
Our headliner.
Here it is.
Yeah. I'm actually first generation Ghanaian American in my family and everything. And it's real quick two-part question. First, I know you probably get this a lot, is a lot of people are like, they appreciate you for, you know, being just raw and cut, and like they always kind of try and give you that rep of Anthony Bourdain, you, and then like Action Bronson. Have you ever thought of like you gotta just like link up one day and just like go hard and do like one episode or something? And then second question, just real quick, is, which actually is for both of you, is like favorite Chicago spot to go to?
Okay. The first one, you know, I came up and I had done Tony's shows. So the way I met Tony is a funny story. I knew his kind of team, this girl Helen that is like the kind of creative director for a lot of the things Tony does, was my homegirl. And Tony had done some interviews where he had talked about me, and he reached out and asked me to be on some shows. But before we even did the show, he was doing his book event for Medium Raw at Union Square, right? And I was playing ball on the Lower East Side, about like 17 blocks away. And I had just finished, and I look, I have like 6 missed calls, and it's from Helen. I'm like, yo, it's good. And she said, I'm at Union Square with Tony. Tony doesn't have a moderator. He wanted to do the event without a moderator, but now he wants a moderator, and he's asking if you want to do this. And I was like, I'm playing ball. Like, she's like, well, can you run 17 blocks and get here, because the event starts in 30 minutes. I was like, I'm stinking. I was in a funny turquoise T-shirt and basketball shorts, stinking. I played 3 games. It's like, fine. I was like, if Tony's down, I'll come. She's like, run. So I ran over. I did the event. It's the first time I ever met Tone. And then I did the layover for him. I took Prodigy to eat at Great NY Noodletown for like an online thing he was doing. And that was funny because we're on the layover for Tony Bourdain. Prodigy's eating in Noodletown. We asked Prodigy, what's your favorite Chinese food? no pause, no filter to think about anything. The best answer, Mongolian beef, fam.
I told
He was
you.
like, that P.F. Chang's Mongolian beef.
told you,
that
son.
Shit, yeah, they cut that. And I was like, don't cut that. That is the best answer you will ever get on a food show for best food. That's real. Like, the man likes P.F. Chang's Mongolian beef. That's like, I had done a wine seminar one time for my dad. When I worked at my dad's restaurant, I poured out wine for these people, and one waiter takes the wine. I asked him, what do you taste? He goes, tastes like grapes, man. That's a good answer.
Real.
Hey, guess what? Grapes.
It's in there.
But those are my two favorite tasting notes ever. Grapes and Mongolian beef. And but no, I feel like I've already done, and I was on the last episode of No Reservations. It was me, all the homies from The Wire, Michael K. Williams, Marlo, we all, Fort Greene, Crown Heights dudes. I used to see Marlo, Jamie, who's Marlo from The Wire, in the grocery store. I met him because I was at Pathmark late one night, wasted, and I was looking for cold cuts because, like, I try to go low carb if I'm gonna, like, eat at night. So I'm like grabbing cold cuts, and I see him next to me. I was like, Marlo, what's good? And he's like, excuse me, do you know where the cottage cheese is? I was like, the cottage cheese is right over here, man. So I met him, helping him find cottage cheese at Pathmark. But that's all the neighborhood, Michael K., we got the same barber. I see him at the barbershop all the time. So I did that last episode for Tone. I feel like he is the godfather of this, and, like, I pay him all the respect in the world. But, he does his thing, and I do mine, and he respects it. He sent me an email last week being like, yo, thank you, congrats, keep doing what you're doing. And we're friends. Like, we're really tight. And when the food industry didn't really understand what to make of me, Tony definitely had my back. He's very, very gracious, He's been very gracious. He's always seen that I was coming up. He was never, like, giving me the cold shoulder. He really embraced it. And he kind of actually explained to a lot of people in the food industry, like, how to understand me. So I'm eternally grateful to that man.
I actually saw they did an interview, and first thing he did was, like, mention you. And I was
really?
Like, man, it was, like, crazy.
Oh, fly.
I was
Yeah.
like, yo. It was like,
No, because, I love him, man. Like, he's a great dude. Yeah, he's great. I'll tell jokes about him. I'll tell jokes to him all the time, about him getting old. But it's cool, man. He's the best. Like, none of this food TV shit happens without Tone. And then Action's cool. Action came up in the neighborhood too. Like, all this stuff is neighborhood business. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is all neighborhood stuff. Action used to, I think I'd met Action first because he would run around the Duck Down offices, and I think Action was selling weed back then. And then Action would come by Baohaus, and I knew his homie Adrian, and we're all low heads. We all collect polo. So Action will come and hang and does his show now, and he's at Vice. But nah, man, like, I think everybody's doing their own thing. I'm not that into the crossover, the team up thing. Action's got his lane, Tony's got his, and I got mine. But what was your second question? The last one?
For both of you guys, favorite Chicago food spot?
Brian.
As I said earlier, I don't eat. But all right, I will say if I do stand up at Laugh Factory a lot. So there's a place called Brazilian Bowl on Belmont and Broadway. I love that shit. That's good. And then they went out of business. I'm a gumbo fiend, and I love Dixie Kitchen gumbo, but Jesus, Lord have mercy. And I'm going to New Orleans on Wednesday, so I'm doing gumbo crawl on New Orleans. What about you? And I got you some donuts from around the corner.
The donuts I'm going P.F. Chang's Mongolian beef.
Hell yeah.
Nah, I haven't eaten enough in Chicago. I've eaten around. I like Harold's, obviously. Harold's is super obvious.
Woo!
I go to Harold's.
Mild sauce.
Yeah, every time I come, because that's my thing. D.C., like, we known for the mumbo sauce.
Yeah.
Right? But Harold's, you got the mild sauce here. So
What is this? I think mild sauce is
it's all just kind of freaked out duck
Hogwarts.
sauce. You know what I mean? That's what it is. It's freaked out duck sauce, which is incredible. Like, everybody needed to freak out the duck sauce. I like Gene and Giorgetti's a lot. I really like Gene and Giorgetti's. Like, it's classic. I like the old classic spots. I like Gene and Giorgetti's a lot. Yeah.
How about this? Final word for you, man. First of all, you guys have been, give it up for yourselves for being a great audience. So much.
Shouts to Brian. Thank you to
Oh,
Brian.
no, thank you very much.
All
I
right.
had fun.
Chicago
Been great.
legend. Thank you to the Humanities Festival. All right, Chop Shop. Thank you. Thank you to everybody that came out. You got anything? Last words?
Last words. I'll be back here July 16th. Meet me at the Silver Room Block Party in Hyde Park.
Yo, I would just say, you know what? We're a lot more similar than we are different. Treat other people the way you like to be treated. Peace and love. Thank you very much.
Peace
Thanks
out.
for coming.